Dr. Rivera, will you please read the minutes of December 10, 2020, please?
Yes, sir. The Board of Trustees of Southwest Texas Junior College met in regular session December 10, 2020 via Zoom. Board President Rodolfo R. Flores called the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Board members present were Rodolfo R. Flores, President, Dr. Harry O. Watkins, Vice President, Dr. Antonio H. Rivera, Secretary, Maria Elena Lara, Victor Lopez, Tony T. Moreno, and Anita Sackford. Also present was Dr. Hector Gonzalez, President of the College. The minutes of the November 17, 2020 regular board meeting were read and approved with corrections as presented by Dr. Antonio H. Rivera, Secretary. Board President Flores welcomed guests at the meeting, which included college personnel, Antarsky, Derek Sandoval, Margot Mata, Connie Buchanan, Mark Underwood, and Ismael Martinez, Eric Eid from Eid and Company CPA. Audience to patrons were none. A motion was made by Dr. Watkins and second by Anita Shackelford to approve the 2019 to 2020 audited financial statement as presented by Eric Eid from Eid and Company CPA. Motion carried unanimously and a copy is attached. A motion was made by Dr. Harry O. Watkins and second by Tony T. Moreno to approve a one-time stipend for all full-time SWTJC employees. Motion carried unanimously and a copy is attached. With no further business or action items to discuss, Anita Shackelford made the motion to adjourn. Dr. Harry O. Watkins seconded the motion, and the motion carried at 7:24 p.m.
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, this will stand approved as read. We're glad to have our guests. Do we have any audience to patrons?
No, sir.
Okay. Next item is reports, the quarterly investment report.
Number 5A in your packet is our quarterly investment report. It needs no action. It's just allowing us to let you know where we are on our investments. As of November 30th, we had short-term investments in the amount of $8,825,000. We had long-term investments in the amount of $383,000, making our total investments $908,000.
$9,208,000.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I read that wrong?
Any comments?
Tarsky, I have a question. Did we lose money on there or what? The 1,496,000 on the, has the book value, market value on the short-term investments on the cash?
On the cash, we just had expenditures that would be part of this time of the year. We still maintain, and as I'll show you in our financial statements, we still maintain our $500,000 unrestricted CD.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? If not, our next item is preliminary enrollment for spring of 2021.
Okay. I don't see Margot here. She just emailed me the report. These are preliminary because we don't have a census date yet. So the first day of class was on Tuesday. As of today, our spring, you know what, let me share my screen. That way you can see it. Ismael, will you give me control so I can share screen?
You should have control now, Dr. Gonzalez.
Okay. Okay, so can everybody see the screen and see my cursor?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this was our spring head count last spring, 6,752. Spring 2021, which is the current one, we're at 6,030, which represents a decrease of 11% in our head count. For our contact hours, 1,117 last spring compared to 1,019,000 for this spring, a 9% decrease. And then on credit hours, excuse me, which represents tuition, spring 2020, we had 54,842 compared to this spring so far, 49,135, which is a decrease of 10%. Now, if you recall, when we did our budget estimates in the summer, we anticipated a 10% decrease in our enrollment due to COVID. So if we take our spring 2020 numbers of 54, is this number right here, and reduce it by 10%, it's 49,358 compared to our actual spring 21 is 49,135 for almost a 0.5% decrease, or it's a nominal variance here, 223 credit hours based on our estimate of 10% reduction. And then if we look at fall, what we had on fall last fall compared to spring, 57,358 versus 49, which is a 14% decrease. Last year we had fall to spring, it decreased by approximately 7%. So just again, these are preliminary numbers. We do have a 12-week session that is going to start on January the 29th. And then we have a second 8-week section that begins on February 26th, which will help bring up these numbers a little bit. But I just wanted to show you where we're at. And although it is a significant decrease here, the decrease here based on what we estimated is very nominal. Any questions on our current enrollment?
Are most of those dual credit, Hector, or are they regular registration?
It's primarily regular, but we do have some decreases in dual as well. So we've been contacting students that didn't register from fall to spring, and we've been working since mid-November, calling students. And a common response that we get back from our students is that it's too difficult to do remote learning, and they are either reducing their course load from 12 hours to maybe 6 hours, or they're deferring until the summer or the fall when we can have hopefully more in-person classes. So I'm not saying that that's all the decrease, but we heard that comment from students that didn't register for the same amount from fall to spring.
Hector, what kind of effect is this going to have on your faculty? And is the stimulus money that is coming, is that going to help?
Yes. So the first is the faculty. So we had faculty convocations last week, and there was some concern because some sections weren't as strong as what we would like. We had to, consolidate some classes, and some faculty lost some overload, so we can give loads to other faculty. But I assured all of our faculty members that we were not going to take an adverse action on their faculty contracts, that we were going to honor their contracts and keep them on board. It's in our area, it's very difficult to find good faculty. And, if we were to let go faculty at this point, it would be extremely difficult to hire them back up, once we get past COVID. And this is not a downward trend. We can point to the reason, and it's COVID. And, with vaccinations coming, we have expectations that we'll be able to rebound from these decreases here. So I feel pretty confident that it'll rebound once we get past this. So that's the first question. The faculty contracts weren't impacted at all, and we're going to honor them. And like I said, if you look at this number here, we based our budget on this number here, even though we had last spring we had 54,000 credit hours. We built our budget on 49,000. You recall we had a significant $2 million decrease in our budget from last year to this year. So that's all taken into account. So I think on the revenue side and expense side, we're going to be okay. On this new COVID funding that we received from that Congress approved late December, it's going to allow us to recoup lost revenue. How we actually calculate and if we can address the lost revenue on tuition, the rules haven't come out yet, but I have confidence that this new administration is going to be more lenient in how we calculate and apply for lost revenue. So I believe it's going to be very beneficial to our institution to recoup the losses that we had. We should be able to recoup our loss in the dorms, cafeteria, perhaps daycare as well. We've waived the online fee for students. So that's another area that we are hoping to be able to recoup some revenue. We don't have the rules yet. There was a webinar last week that Ann attended and kind of gave an overview of what changed from the initial CARES Act to this consolidated reconciliation. It's got a long name. CRRSSAA is what it's called, the acronym. But it's a lot more forgiving and less stringent in what applies and what doesn't apply. The original CARES Act was primarily focused on delivering the cost of delivering the instruction in a remote setting. So to keep them off campus and not so much to bring students back on campus. This new version of CARES 2.0 is designed to help us bring the students back on campus. So the allowable expenditures are broadly expanded to include what wasn't includable in the first one. In the overview of the grant, they did mention that these new provisions may be retroactive to cover unspent money from the original CARES Act. So again, we're waiting for the final rules to come out to see how we move forward with that. We have received the student portion of the new CARES Act. So we've got a little over $1.8 million that we received early this week as emergency aid for students right now that are needy. So that portion of it has been transferred to us, and we have our application online available for the students to start submitting their requests for that additional CARES money. The application is very simple, one page, but it does require them to have filed a federal financial aid application. Not necessarily be awarded, but as long as they've filed one. So again, we'll get more rules and process that, but I think the priority right now is to push out that money to the students that really need it. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did.
Thank you, Hector. Next item is President's report.
Yes, sir. It's item number 6 in your board packet, and we've talked a little bit about what I was going to talk about, but I'll start with the strategic plan. So included in this month's agenda is for the board to consider the revisions that we have for our purpose, mission, and belief statements. We've just to recap a little bit, right before COVID struck in March, we were in the process of evaluating our 2017-2022 strategic plan. We call it a mid-plan review, seeing how we're doing midway through the plan. Due to COVID, that got put on hold. So September, when we got back and got past our fall registration, we started working on our strategic plan review again. And as a result of, let me take this off the screen here. As a result of learning what we learned in dealing with and responding to our COVID pandemic, we thought that it would be appropriate to review our mission statement and our belief statement, because we learned so many things about ourselves, about our institution, about what our priorities are, and what our priorities need to be going forward based on our response and our reaction to the COVID pandemic. So we undertook, it took about 3 months, but we went through the process of different iterations. We did, brainstorming sessions. We'd meet, every week. Our cabinet would then feedback or share it with their directors, with faculty, division chairs to get input on the work that we did that week. And it was a constant feedback back and forth until we got to the point where we had a proposed mission and belief statement. And we'll talk a little bit more about that down the agenda. But I think we have a good, meaningful revision to our mission and belief statements. We haven't changed anything since 2004 on our mission statement. We review it, but we haven't asked for any modifications to it. On COVID-19, again, we started the year with, right off the bat, we had numerous staff and faculty that came on to work the first day with either a COVID positive or a COVID exposure over the holidays. So I know included in your board packet is a cumulative summary of all of our positive cases and all of our exposures. And the up-to-date number as of today is we currently have 15 cases, 15 individuals that are positive out on quarantine. 10 from Uvalde, 2 Del Rio, 2 Eagle Pass, 1 Pearsall. And that's, I think, 9 staff, faculty, and 6 students. And then on exposures, we have 13 individuals that are out due to exposure, 10 faculty and 3 tech students, 4 from Del Rio, 1 Eagle Pass, 7 Uvalde, and 1 Crystal City. Since June 24th, when we started tracking our COVID, we've had 80 positive cases and 76 exposures. None of the positive cases have resulted or were a result of an on-campus exposure. Those were all acquired off-campus, generally with close family at home.
Hector, we all test them when they come back in on campus?
We don't test them. We do the 14-day quarantine. I know CDC has dropped their quarantine to 10 days. Our reopen committee discussed that, and just because there's so many, there's fluctuation between when somebody acquires it and when they get tested. Maybe they don't know exactly when they were around somebody. So we take 14 days from the test, and we just use that as our standard.
I was just wondering if we may do a little research on research study on our own, and when we do get back on campus, is do periodical testing, whether it be 1 week from when they came back on campus, and then maybe, I don't know, whatever your suggestions will be, but just periodical testing. That way we have some kind of numbers to say, they got it in class, or they got it, or there was less, in person, there was no COVID positive students, just to have some kind of numbers, because I know that the CDC is saying, well, there is nobody getting COVID when they come in class for the schools, for the elementary schools. So I'm just wondering if we could do something like that to have some numbers.
We'll probably have to do something similar to that as we ease back into academic face-to-face. Right now, since the only on-campus is tech, each tech program is a bubble. So we treat it as, if there's a positive in that bubble, we quarantine that bubble. But as you know, with the academic courses, we may have, it's impossible to have bubbles because the student may be in an English class in the morning, go to a history, and then the other students are going to a math. So that bubble concept won't work as we ease back into academics. So we're in the process. The Reopen Committee is looking at that and to how to address that. And that's one of the reasons we want to ease back into it. You know, provided that the caseloads, the positive cases in our communities go down. But that's kind of why we want to go back to some face-to-face courses in the summer to so we can test our protocols before we expand further in the fall. We don't want to start cold in the fall. We want to ease into it in the summer and test our protocols, and then we can go forward with the fall. That's the plan right now. That's what our Reopen Committee is working on. We're not there yet, but that's what we're working towards.
Sounds good.
You said that you keep them away for 14 days, and when they come back, do you test them? Do they test negative?
We don't test them. So the CDC is actually recommending 7 days from the date of infection that they're not contagious anymore. So if, for example, if we have a student in one of our tech programs that tests positive, then that student is quarantined for 14 days, and everybody else, if say it happens on Wednesday and everybody else in the class was around that student for 2 days prior to when they were positive, they're going to quarantine the whole class for 14 days. Now, that doesn't mean instruction stops. It just shifts to remote for those 14 days.
Right.
But that 14 days gives us a big overlap between the CDC recommendation of 7 days. It gives us another 7 days on top of that for that person that was positive. So, they shouldn't be contagious at that point. And that's the decision that we've made based on the CDC guidance that's out there. So we're not testing them to come back to work. We're just extending that quarantine period and say, okay, now you're good to come. And that goes for students and faculty and staff. We're treating every case the same.
Dr. Gonzalez, the CDC also, they recommend not to retest them if they're getting better. And you do the past 10 days, then you're okay. Because some people you can test and test and test, they keep coming out positive. So the retesting kind of doesn't have validation. So I think the 14 days is a good time period. So,
and we're still doing temperature screening every day. They do temperature screening, and everybody has to wear their mask. In the nursing program, obviously if they're in the clinical sites, they're wearing N95 masks. So that doesn't change. Everybody on campus, if they're in an office or in an instructional setting, they're wearing a mask. Our maintenance pretty much are wearing their mask even when they're working outdoors. It's just, they've grown used to it already. So that's one of our main protocols that we believe has stopped any kind of spreading on campus or acquiring the COVID on campus, is really centering on the universal, mask wearing. If you're in your office by yourself with the door closed, you can remove your mask. We have a sign on the doorknobs that, once you leave for the day, you flip it, and that notifies maintenance that you were in there without your mask. And, when they come in to service it, they'll spray it and they disinfect it. They'll turn that doorknob hanger the other way, saying it's been cleaned. So we have that procedure for offices and other space that we have. We keep a daily log of everybody that's on campus. When they check in, their temperature, they attest that they have no symptoms, that they're not coughing, they're not, there's 3 questions there, and we keep that log, just in case somebody comes out positive 2 or 3 days later. we know who was in that building, and that way we can notify them and let them know that somebody in that building tested positive and if they want to get tested. The actual decision to quarantine goes to the reopen committee, and they evaluate the scenario of what occurred in what building or in what circumstance, and then they make the call on who gets quarantined. And that log that you received on our COVID cases is a report that they maintain on a daily basis, the reopen committee. I do want to share with you that both our LVNs and our RNs helped at the vaccine distribution yesterday. Had great response. I meet with the Uvalde COVID leadership team on Thursdays. Everybody was very complimentary, praising the help of our nursing students to help vaccinate the individuals in our community. Uvalde has been designated a hub, so we'll continue getting large doses of vaccines. We were approved as a hub because of the way that the distribution is being handled, and is very efficient. We can get them out very quickly. I don't know if I stated earlier, but there was 1,300 vaccines that were distributed yesterday. And our nursing students came in on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, to practice on each other so they wouldn't hurt our patients giving the shots. We have similar arrangements with Valverde and Fort Duncan for our students to help. Right now at the hospital, we have over 30 COVID patients, and we had 10 stations doing vaccines at the Civic Center. And it would just take an enormous drain from hospital nursing to pull them out to do the vaccine. So utilizing our nursing students doesn't put a drain on the hospitals, that they can continue taking care of the patients that are in high need. So we look forward.
All the nursing students did an excellent job. They were very efficient. They were dedicated. They were very organized, very professional. And I happened to be there yesterday and got my shot, and everything seemed to be going perfectly, in the perfect condition, perfect order. So I think the board should compliment our nursing program and our faculty and all the people that were there helping. Dr. Rivera was there too. I'm sure he may have the same opinion or different. But they did an excellent job, and didn't lose any time either. You walked in, you got your vaccination, you waited your 15 minutes, and you were ready to go. And they did a lot of people, like I said, 1,300 people. They did an excellent job. And they should
Mr. Flores, I agree with you what you just said, that I experienced no pain whatsoever on the injection site, and until now I'm still pain free. But the nurse who was helping me did an excellent job, and I thanked her, and I think some of the other nurses that were there that they have done a very good job, and Mrs. Hadley, who was walking around there supervising as well. But yes, I really appreciate what they've done.
Do we still have plenty of vaccine for other patients who will come tomorrow the next day?
Depends on scheduling, I think.
So that we received that batch for this week. I'm assuming we'll get another batch next week for the mass vaccination. I know there's a small quantity for the second vaccines, so they're managing both. But we should, what I understand is every week we should be getting a sizable vaccine amount, and knowing that we can distribute them in a timely basis, I think will help ensure that we continue receiving the vaccines in a large amount.
But as of now, we've given out what we had.
Yes, everything that we got, we gave out yesterday, all in one day.
Okay.
Tomorrow there's a second round for hospital employees, and I think trying to get them all out between 8 and 10, so 2 hours, 200 vaccines, something like that. So it's they're learning each time they do it, and they're getting better. So we probably can do, we did 1,300. We could probably do 1,500. Now that we know, what to expect with the mass vaccination. I think prior to this, we had done 400, but it's a good thing for the community to be designated as a hub site.
Dr. Gonzalez, is it the Moderna or the Pfizer? Which one are we getting here?
Both. Yesterday was Pfizer. The 400 last week or 2 weeks ago was Moderna. So it just depends what the state sends out. What I've heard is the initial dose will give you, upwards of 80% coverage for the infection protection. The second dose is designed to extend that coverage for a longer period. You do pick up an additional, 5-10% coverage, but it's mainly designed to extend that protection for a longer period. Again, that's my understanding of the 1 dose, 2 dose for the vaccine.
At what point do you become protected after you get the shot? Immediately, a week later, 10 days later, 2 weeks later, or a month, or how long?
I've heard 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
I never heard a number.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
I think several of the Lakey residents have called in and had the vaccine. Some of the older ones made appointments, and
we have 7,000 on the wait list right now.
wow.
Yeah, there was 4,000 last week, and there's 7,000 on it now. So that's a good thing. That means people are wanting to have the vaccine. So I don't know if you saw the news earlier today, but Dr. Fauci was on, and one of the things he shared was if we can get close to 80% of our population vaccinated, then that's when we'll start seeing this COVID get under control. There's some people that are, against taking the vaccine. So I'm encouraged by seeing, that we have 7,000 people in our community, waiting to get the vaccine. So that's a good sign, if we're, to get this under control as a community. Moving down on the President's report, Del Rio roofs, we're still waiting for a formal report from CASB. Right before we broke for the fall semester, they hired a third-party engineer to go do an independent inspection on the roof damage and what would be necessary to repair. So we're still waiting on the results of that. And of course, we had the holidays in between, but that's where that stands. We did have some minor damage due to wind over the holidays, nothing major. On deferred maintenance, I've approved a scope of work for a mechanical engineering firm. I believe it's the same firm that did work for us on the Garner Science Building when we looked at the exhaust issues in that building. So the scope of that work is to come in and evaluate Hubbard Hall for the mechanical, electrical, primarily the air conditioning systems and the exhaust in that facility to see, what would be the appropriate modification to minimize the level of moisture in those rooms. That's always the problem, is the moisture. You recall those dorms were built in the early 70s, and they were designed with a chilled water system. I want to say in the late 90s, early 2000, the chilled water system was abandoned. There was too many infrastructure problems with the pipes. So that transitioned to like the air conditioning systems you have in hotel rooms. Those work for the time being, but they're not the appropriate solution. There's has to do with the amount of airflow and the right balance to have the moisture correct in those rooms. So they're going to come in and study that and look at that and have a recommendation for us. That's the big wild card in the remodel for those Hubbard is we have to be able to address the HVAC problem in there. And once we have the mechanical engineers, study that and give us a recommendation onto what that solution is, then we can start, getting more accurate estimates on what it's going to take to address that problem. So that's kind of where we're at there.
Dr.
That was
Gonzalez.
released. Mhm.
Did we put it out for bids, or did we have to put it out for bids? Or
No, I want to believe it's a $14,000 contract. So
Okay.
it's not a big contract. It's just, they're coming in to study that issue and that issue alone. We are probably going to do an RFP to select a new architect firm that we can use for projects like this. The previous architect firm, both partners have retired, so the firm no longer exists. Not that we have a new building, but on projects like this, once we get the mechanical done, we may have to get an engineer to look at it if it's going to require some modifications. So, we may do an RFP to select an architect firm to help us down the road. Under funding, on January the 12th, the 87th legislature opened up their session. They opened a couple of days and then they closed. I want to say they're going to open back up Monday if they're not open already. Important to that is over the summer, State Comptroller Hager had estimated that we were going to be, around $4 billion short as a state for the amount of revenue estimates that he had for the next biennium. On January the 11th, he released a new estimate, and it's 0.4% compared to the current biennium. So it's about half a, 400 million off from our current. So it looks a lot better than what it did in the summer. And that's not factoring in the rainy day fund, which holds about $11 billion. So it's going to be a tough session, but it's not going to be as bad as what it could have been and what they were estimated it to be in the summer. So we're starting to work on our legislative packets. We put a binder together every 2 years to give to our representatives. We do have 2 new representatives this year. We have Representative Eddie Morales from Maverick County that covers Maverick and Valverde. We also have Senator Roland Gutierrez, who replaced Senator Flores in the Senate. So those 2 are new reps for us. So we'll be reaching out and sharing the information that binder, tell them a little bit about what we do and what our legislative priorities are going forward. I talked a lot about the Consolidated Coronavirus Response Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, which is the actual name for that CARES 2.0. We're going to receive, I have it here, $6,280,000 for the institution, $1,868,000 for our students. So that's on top of the 3.8 million that we received from the original CARES Act. So that $6,280,000 is what we're looking at. We're waiting for the rules to come out, but that's what we're looking at to make up some of the lost revenue that we've had both fall and spring this year and possibly spring of last year. So we wait for those rules. Can't say for sure, but that's our hope and expectation that we'll be able to recoup some of those lost revenues from those terms.
We should look pretty good by the end of the year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Given that we based our budget on a 10% decrease, and knowing that we'll more than likely be able to replenish some of that lost revenue that we didn't budget for this year because we knew we weren't going to have full capacity dorms. So I believe we're going to end up probably the same as last year. Would be my expectation, given that we can make up some of the lost revenue. Talked about the emergency aid available to students now, and the other thing is, you know, some of the leftover CARES Act money that we had, and I want to say about 900,000.
About 900.
About 900,000 left over from the original CARES Act, and we had allocated it for additional network servers, support for our chat software that our students can chat with us via online, website enhancements, programming for using mobile apps on our phone for the students, conversion of classrooms to hybrid learning, backup generator to keep our servers up if the power goes out, and additional COVID-19 PPE, you know, masks, gowns, et cetera, especially for our allied health programs. So those are kind of some of the high level categories that we're looking at our original CARES money to finish that up. And then, you know, then we'll start looking at our budgets for the current CARES 2.0. And the first item there will be to make up some of that lost revenue that we have there. I didn't include it in your president's report, but I do want to mention and commend our partner institution, Saul Ross Rio Grande College. Both Dr. Munoz and President Pete Gallego have done an outstanding job in really working with us and collaborating with aligning our curriculums for the benefit of our students. You know, our goal is to make the transition as easy as possible for the students, you know, up to the point where they won't even notice the difference of transferring from one institution to the other. And I just want to commend them. That they've done an awesome job. It's night and day from what it used to be. And, you know, they've done a fabulous job working with us, working with our academic folks. Both our faculty are talking to each other, our VPs instruction are talking to each other. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and it's all for the benefit of the students. So I just wanted to share that. And then I've added, you know, their upcoming meetings. We've got a lot going on. Usually in legislative sessions, we have a lot of meetings. We've got a legislative committee meeting next week. Tomorrow, I'm doing a data meeting. So that's there for your information, and also included, you know, on the bottom there. Every Tuesday and Thursday in the mornings, we meet as an expanded cabinet. So it's cabinet and some directors as we deal with strategic planning. And every Wednesday we have cabinet. Thursday afternoons is the COVID meeting at 4:30. I have hospital meetings the fourth Tuesday of the month. Third Thursday, the First Aid Bank Directors meeting, and that's generally at noon. And then, of course, the Rotary meeting every Thursday. And just to give you a glimpse of where I'm at throughout the week.
You're busy.
I am busy, and everybody's busy.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Quite an honor.
That's all I have, Mr. Flores.
Okay, thank you. Good report. Next item is consider an act on financial statement as of December 31, 2020.
Number 7 in your packet is the financial statements. I just want to take 1 minute to go back to our investment report and note that investment report was as of November. So when it shows, you know, a decrease in some of our investments, that was before we started drawing down for the spring semester. So it was delayed because we had delayed everything on the December meeting. So I just forgot to note that was as of November. These statements are as of December 31st. We had educational revenue in the amount of $17,055,000. Student aid, $2,605,000. Our auxiliary enterprises lost $5,442, making our total revenue $19,855,000. We had educational expenditures in the amount of $12,299,000. Our student aid expenditures were $565,613,000. Our auxiliary enterprises had expenditures of $373,000, making our total expenditures before debt service $18,286,000. We had a total excess revenue amount of $749,000. The details that support that are on pages 2 through 11. On page 12, you'll find our statement of net assets. As of December 31st, we had total current assets in the amount of $11,869,000, non-current assets in the amount of $44,534,000, making our total asset figure $56,404,000. We had current liabilities in the amount of $8,851,000. Our non-current liabilities were $20,916,000, making our total liability figure $29,768,000. Again, showing an increase in net assets of $749,000. On pages 13 through 15, you'll find a summary of our account balances. As of December 31st, we had cash in the bank of $4,555,000, certificates of deposit $4,350,000, making our total account balance $8,905,000. On pages 16 through 18, you'll find our investments in CDs. We have restricted CDs in the amount of $3,850,000, unrestricted CD in the amount of $500,000, making our total CD amount $4,350,000. On page 19, we have the maturities and the renewals that occurred during the month. On page 20 are our scholarship totals. We had total scholarships in the amount of $943,000. And on page 21 are other investments. The Will C. Miller corporate stock balance is $189,135. And our corporate stock plant funds, $143,544.
Any questions or comments?
No. Go ahead and move that we approve the financial statement, Mr. Flores.
There's a second.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item is consider an act on the dual credit memorandum and early college high school memorandum between SWTJC and school districts.
Yes, sir. That's item number 8. So every year we have to approve our MOU, and Dr. Underwood is available if you have any questions, but it's my understanding that there's no change from the MOU from last year. Is that correct, Dr. Underwood?
No change on either of them, right?
Y'all still going? Didn't hear that. I'm sorry. I don't have a door. How much longer?
Any questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, and consider an act on proposed changes to purpose, mission, and belief statements.
Mr. Flores, can we go back to number 9?
This is coming.
Okay, yes,
Number 9?
number 9. Consider an
Yes,
act
so-
on authorizing college president to sign dual credit memorandum and early college school memorandum. That's.
Yes, sir. So that's just granting me the authority to execute these documents between now and May.
We'll entertain a motion.
I move that we authorize him to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, consider an act on proposed changes to purpose, mission, and belief statements.
Yes, sir. This is item number 10 in your board packet. And if you look to the second page, you will see the page that begins with purpose statement. And the purpose statement is what we've are proposing our current mission statement translate to our purpose statement. This is follows real close to what our legislative purpose is in statute. So we recommend that our current mission statement become our purpose statement, and that we change our mission statement to be Southwest Texas Junior College enriches lives and advances growth through the education of our diverse communities. And you can see what it was in the past. We feel and believe that it's a mission statement that reflects who we are as an institution. And it is a mission statement that our employees can know, can learn, can memorize, and can quote and use it in their everyday work. The mission statement is important because it is the foundation on which our strategic plan will be based upon. And that mission statement, if you turn to the next page, is further defined by what we hold dear, our values and vision. So we propose 3 things, and we want to title it Beliefs and Ways of Being. The first being that we aspire to achieve excellence by purposefully committing to success, inspiring trust, transparency, professionalism, and accountability, and engaging all with empathy and care. We embrace inclusivity by valuing every individual as unique and whole, fostering a culture of acceptance, respecting diversity of thought, and we champion opportunities for lifelong learning, professional, personal, and community growth, and institutional innovation. So those are the core beliefs and ways of being that we feel best represents our institution, our employees, and our commitment to our students and to our community. And you can see below there is what our current vision is. And again, what's listed as current, these were crafted in 2004. Then if you turn to the next page, just kind of, it has those arrows going down the left side. That's just illustrating for you kind of where we're at and what the strategic plan is going to be built on. So we have the purpose, why we exist, supported by our mission, which is what are we doing to achieve our purpose? And then how we get there is our beliefs and ways of being. And then if you turn the page, that then informs our goals, which is, what must we achieve for success? Those goals inform our objectives, and those are the specific intentions that are measurable in measurable terms to achieve our goals. They're specific, creative, unique. That's what I would call the institutional level. That's where we may say, we want to increase our fall to spring retention by X number. That's where you can start seeing the meat and potatoes. Then those objectives are then supported by activities. So then as you go down in the institution, we have our directors, our divisions, different departments. They will look at those objectives and say, okay, what can we do to help move the bar? So that's how those activities support the objectives. Then we have measures that what I'm considering a leading indicator, something that changes quickly, that I can measure to see if our progress is moving in the right direction. And then on the last page, you'll see our outcomes. Those are our lagging indicators. So if we do everything we say we're going to do, then what's going to reflect to us that we've been successful? So the number of students that graduate, that complete, that find employment, those are some of the lagging indicators that you can't measure on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, but if you do everything that you're doing above that, you should see movement in those lagging indicators. So I just wanted to share, kind of the concept of how our strategic plan is laid out and how we're building it. And right now we're at the stage of the goals, but before we go too far down, I wanted to inform the board of the work that we've done on the purpose, mission, and beliefs, and see if the work that we've done and the words that we put, pen on paper here, in your opinion, represent what we are as an institution.
Any comments?
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the proposed changes, Mr. Flores.
I'll second. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. And this will give us steam to get to the next level. And again, as we identify those goals, we'll bring those to the board and have you take a look at them and make sure that we're on the right track.
Thank you. Next item is TASB update 40 legal policies and act on local policies. See attached list.
Yes, sir. This is your item number 11 in the board pack. And I want to say the majority of these are legal changes. And Derek, do we have anything in specific on local that we need to address, or?
Dr. Gonzalez, can we just go over the local and kind of highlight those maybe?
Sure. So the first local is BBE, and that is board member authority. If you look at page 1 on the explanatory notes, the caption there is the revision is going to be when transacting business, board members must discuss all proposals presented to the board and reach decisions which can include dissenting votes. Members have limitations in relation to requesting records and requesting reports, and must adhere to security controls for confidential reasons.
What was it before? What's the big change?
Okay. Do you have that update handy, Ann? If not, I can.
I'm trying to pull that up right now. Okay, so let me read this. It basically just clarifies what the standard is for determining confidentiality. It doesn't really change what you have to do. And that's a lot of these local policies just look at the new legal, and then they look at what do we have to do to follow the new legal, or to actually replicate the new legal in our local policy.
So do we have to change our policies the way they exist now, that we're requesting information and all that? Does that limit us? Are there policies that we have to revise?
Yeah, once we adopt these, TASB will revise the policies. If you look at them on the website, they'll revise our policies for us, so that we fall in line. We can't have a local policy that doesn't at least include as much as the legal policy.
Okay.
Like if you had a legal policy that said you had to be at 2, you couldn't have a local policy that said you had to be at one.
So when we make these changes on the local, can we have copies of these and kind of go over them? Maybe at the next meeting or whenever?
Yes,
Yes,
if you'd like to, we can do that.
Okay.
We can table this, and what we can do is do it in February and print you out what local currently says and what they're proposing.
That would be a
Okay.
good,
I was trying to
We'll
bring
go
it
ahead.
up to share screen, but we can do that and be more efficient.
Yeah,
We'll
and
go ahead
like,
and table it. We go ahead and table so we can get all the information that Mr. Moreno is requesting.
Okay.
Tony,
Sounds good.
Next. It's now 8:03. The board will convene in closed sessions in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.074 to consider evaluation of president. Texas Government Code, Section 551.074. Employees terminated, resigned, retired, new hires, transfers. Texas Government Code, Section 551.074. We're now in executive session.
Okay, Mr. Flores, just give us a second so we can